Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Dale's Rails. And this, my 500 subscribers edition for the channel. I want to say thanks to all my recent subscribers helping me to put me over the top to reach others to bring into this great hobby. And being able to share with you America's 250th birthday. You know, I seem to recall back toward the end of my senior years, one of the teachers apparently felt compelled to put our life into perspective before we headed out to the great unknown by pointing out that the vast majority of us would likely not live to see the year 2000, much less America's 250th birthday. So I must say, I am delighted to be able to share with you America's 250th birthday by preparing a special 4th of July run session for your enjoyment. Well, this is a new arrival that I'm really excited to be sharing with you guys. This is something I ran across at Trains. They were having their Father's Day sale, and I thought it was only the right thing to do, as being a father myself, was to honor my fatherly duties and was to buy a train. And so I had this in my watch list for quite a while. And then as I was going through, I had a different engine in mind I was going to get. Then I came back to this and took another look at it and really read the description. Yeah. Okay, great. So I felt very fortunate to be able to stumble onto another one of these Williams models. I think this one is kind of one of those unique engines, and I had really looked at it. This is a Williams by Bachmann. And that was part of the description when I went in and looked at it. You know, I was fascinated by this engine initially because it's a version of an engine that the Union Pacific took possession of, but it was in the black and gold. And it's this NW2. Look at this thing. This looks, this thing looks brand new. It doesn't look to me like, I mean, it wasn't sealed, but take it out of the packing here. Wow, this is pretty neat, guys. I know it seems like just a run-of-the-mill NW2 switcher, but you know, this has the 16-bit polyphonic sound system in it. And this is a dual can motored switcher. So this thing is going to pull like there is no tomorrow. And I can't wait to get this on the layout and check it out. Look at that. Isn't that a sharp looking engine? The Union Pacific took possession of several of these black NW2s in the gold or yellow. Some of them had a white stripe, but some of them were just like this. This almost, in this light, looks like orange. So I really like the fact that I came across this and was able to acquire this. So we're going to stick this on the layout and check it out. Well, I brought this over here to check this out. The volume on this, I don't believe is where it should be. It can't be this quiet normally at full volume. And this model does not have an external volume control knob, but usually you're going to find one here on the board. And, I've got this little small straight blade. I don't know if you guys can see how small that is right there. You can usually tell because they're going to have a little dial like that. This is really small. And you can check the volume here by raising and lower the volume here if you don't have an external volume control knob on the locomotive. And, that's not that uncommon to find these, especially these Williams models without a volume knob. You can try to take and clean this. Everything on this board looks really good. I've got some kind of white residue on these chips here. It's kind of amazing that they're able to get that good a quality sound, kind of like rail sounds quality, out of this small little board, because this is your sound board basically. And this would be your control board. Pretty simple. You can tell usually you're going to have some contactors on your Williams. If they don't have the contactors, you're going to have these tracks on there, that transistors instead of a circuit. But you'll see a group of transistors here instead of these relays. These little white boxes here, you can see these are relays. Pretty well packed in there. This speaker is kind of down in underneath here, underneath this little clear plastic shield. That's probably in an attempt to create some baffling to the speaker to really help with sound output. And, I've got all the adjustment. I have taken it over there. There's a slight improvement, but, it's not at the level I think it should be, because I've had some other Williams models with this 16-bit polyphonic sound system, and they have a little bit more output to them. And I mean, this is kind of a small model, but normally, you can take a look here, look at all your capacitors and everything on here. This has two really large capacitors. And just looking at the board, other than seeing these kind of whitish residue, I don't know if that's normal or not. But, nothing else about this board would suggest that there's any corrosion or any overheating. These capacitors look really in good shape. So I'm going to think that more than likely the issue, and it's probably the issue with probably 90% of these issues you find where your volume output isn't very good, it's probably going to be this speaker. And there's some magnets in here, and there's a little bit of magnetism to the speaker. But, I think it could be better. And so I think what we've got here, we just got a bad speaker with weak magnet. And you can see it's really a small little speaker. This is a small locomotive. They've got quite a bit of stuff packed in here in such a small footprint. But you can see here on this locomotive, it's very nicely done. I went through it all and lubricated everything, and it was in pretty good shape. It had very sparse grease inside the trucks, like a lot of these Williams models do. These are usually sent out with very light grease in these trucks, and so it's probably a good idea you get in the habit once you get one of these, no matter how new you think it is, to take the time to go through it and really grease them, even if they're running fine, because you'll find that older grease, like most lubricants, it all has an expiration date anyway, whether or not you think it's pliable. So it's a good idea to get in the habit of just going here and redoing that. And the thing I like seeing about this little model, it's a pretty well detailed model. If you look through here, this shell is identical in every way to the early post-war shells or the Lionel shells in general. And you can see we even got some wire handrails here. It's hard to see on here, but we've got wire, because they're black, we actually have wire handrails here, even with these little wire, so we've got these wire stanchions. And this one has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this has 10 stanchions on each side, which, your higher end Lionel models would have that. And, the early post-war Santa Fe's and your early post-war versions would be like that. And I like the fact that they have this high-mounted light. So this is really distinguishes the back light here from the front. And they've got this nice little light up front. These are very small little screw shell lamps that go in there. And, these could be easily upgraded to a LED or something. Usually when I do that, I just go to the trouble of actually putting the LED right there inside where the lens is. Or even if you find them, you can find some 3 and 5 millimeter and smaller. And usually I find the 3 to 5 size work really good on these headlights for most of your diesels. You can just pop that lens out and put the LED in place of the lens and let the LED serve as your lens and your light too. I think that gives you the best look. You can also, put your LED here where these are. You just got to keep in mind, if you're using a standard LED, that they're very directional, kind of like a flood bulb. So if you buy an encapsulated LED, just make sure if you want to get maximum lighting out of it, you orientate it in the direction of the lens, because that's what's the encapsulated LEDs are designed to really shine forward. So they're focused on all their light beam forward on those. So the issue with this locomotive, I believe, is going to be, and most locomotives I find that have a volume problem, it can be your circuit board, or it can be your volume control. I operated this one enough to know I could reduce this all the way down to have no output at all. So I know the volume control is working fine. So I've established that. I don't see anything about this circuit board that would lead me to believe there's any issue with any of these components on here. And they can go bad, but usually you're going to see some swelling or overheating. This is just too new of a model for that. And probably what's happened is, probably 9 times out of 10, it's going to be this speaker. Now, this is going to take a specific size speaker to fit down inside this compartment. This whole thing is, the way I see it, it's all molded in. It isn't like you can just replace a speaker out of this housing that I can see very easily. So you'd have to buy a whole new speaker with this housing. Hopefully something that's going to fit down inside there. I don't know if it has to be an exact fit, just as long as it easily fits down inside. And I'm really surprised, the quality of sound we're getting just out of this simple little board. It's too bad. It seems to be the sound RPMs are regulated by the voltage input. After making some adjustments and cleaning, a little bit of improvement. And it's unfortunate because it's really putting out very good sounds for no more than this board is here. I'm kind of surprised. And then it's responds to voltage input for how much voltage we're creating, increasing RPM. I like how it ramps up. So it looks like this takes an 8 ohm 2-watt speaker, is what's in here. You know, I have some speakers. I don't know if I have one that will work. Well, I thought it would be a good time to demonstrate the pulling power of these Williams models. And I don't have any other Williams engine in my collection that's this small. So this, safe to say, this will be the maximum amount of cars I can probably pull on this outer upper loop anyway. I haven't tried really a maximum pulling contest like this with any engine so far. And it's safe to say, well, this is going to be the maximum amount of cars I can pull just because, well, that's the smallest engine that I have. And so it's kind of hard to take all this in, but, you know, if you count these here carefully, there's 36 cars counting the caboose. So we're going to be chasing our tail, so to speak. And something I don't normally do, but I thought it would be kind of fun to demonstrate this. Just to see if this little engine can pull it. Now, this engine doesn't have the sound volume it should have. I did improve it somewhat by taking that plastic overlay out, but I like the sound system in this locomotive. Williams did a good job of doing engine sounds with a ramp up and so forth. So if you listen closely, you might be able to hear it. So we're going to try this out just to see if this engine can do it. Look at that, doing it. I'll have to make it all the way around. Yeah, it's not even breaking a sweat. It didn't even bog down, actually. Pretty amazing that little engine can pull that much weight around 4 curves. Well, that was pretty well done, I thought. And you know what? I think it'd be kind of interesting to see, since this is a post-war inspired design, to try our 623 1950s post-war Santa Fe. This is a single Pullmore motor. It does have dual magnet traction. You know, this is your early design motor, so a little bit different motor in this because it's the original design. So it'd be interesting to see. What do you guys think? You think this single Pullmore motored engine with magnet traction, you think it's going to pull this? Let's find out. I'd have my doubts, but you never know. Look at that. I didn't think it'd be that easy. It's not having any problems, so I'm really impressed with this. Actually, I had no idea it was going to pull it that easily. Actually, well, I got to say, I'm pretty well surprised and impressed with that. I wasn't expecting that to pull that easily. Well, gentlemen, it just so happens that with the arrival of this new Williams Union Pacific switcher, it just happens to coincide with America's 250th birthday. And I can't think of a better way to celebrate America's 250th birthday than with the Union Pacific Railroad and the American Locomotive Company, Union Pacific Big Boy. So I say, gentlemen, start your engines.